Welcome to Tiny Habits for Weight Loss. We are joined here by our panel of experts today, Sarah Rumpfelt, Catherine Weigel, and Marta Rosgoni. So today, a little bit of what's going to happen for you. We're going to teach you the Tiny Habits method. So you will learn the Tiny Habits method. If you already know it, it will be a great review for you. You're also going to learn successful tiny habit recipes. You will feel more empowered and you'll have access to more resources, many of them free. Here's the flow. Today, we're going to start by teaching you the Tiny Habits method, and then these coaches are going to share success stories. We will take your questions in live Q&A. So the chat will be closed, but you can go to the Q&A function and type in your question there. We will get to as many as we can in this 45-minute panel. We will have these coaches share tiny habit recipes that have worked for them that you can implement right away. We will share more resources for you. And then we're going to finish up with the power of celebration. If you're familiar with the Tiny Habits method at all, you will know that emotions create habits, not repetition, not frequency, and not fairy dust. So if that's new to you, those three words will change your life. Emotions create habits. Write that down. So the Tiny Habits method is ABC: anchor, behavior, and celebration. So we're going to start out with the anchor. And who is taking anchor today?
Catherine is taking anchor.
All right, Catherine, tell us what an anchor is.
Okay, so an anchor moment is a specific behavior or pattern of actions that you do every single day, just in your normal life. A lot of times when people think about habits, they think about setting alarms or having Post-it notes. But what if you're at the grocery store and you get the, alarm to do a push-up? That's not practical. Anchor moments are tied to specific actions that you do each day that prompt a certain behavior. So for example, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I think from what I saw about emotional eating, a lot of people eat when they're overwhelmed, but when I notice I'm feeling overwhelmed, after I brush my teeth, after I put on my shoes, after I lock the door, after I pick up my keys, after I hang up my purse, there are moments throughout the day that can act as sort of the starter point for a small habit or a tiny habit.
Fantastic. That is a great example of what an anchor is. You guys can think about anchors in your own lives of where you might want to put things afterwards. And so after the anchor is the behavior. Talk to us about behavior, Marta.
Yes. So after anchor, which you have so many of them throughout your day, is a tiny behavior. So when we say tiny behavior, we actually mean it's so tiny that no willpower or motivation is required. It's the starter step to a behavior, or it's the activation of that larger behavior or that larger expression of that behavior. So it's a tiny behavior, no motivation, no willpower required to do this.
Excellent. And so if you wanted to drink more water, then maybe you'd get out a glass, or maybe you'd pour a glass. If you wanted to drink more water, you might just take one sip instead of, drinking down your whole water bottle. And those are ways to where you don't need any willpower, any motivation, or any discipline by making them tiny or doing something that starts. Now, the secret sauce is emotions, and we do create emotions through celebration. So Sarah, talk to us about celebration.
Yeah, so the best part, the end of the ABCs, is celebrating all of the hard work that you just did. So you tried something new and you need to celebrate it each and every time. So you may not be someone thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to scream out loud and say, good job. That's okay. Internal celebrations work just fine. Sometimes I'll say, good job internally. You can give yourself a pat on the back. You can clap a little bit. You can even just think, okay, I did it. Great. Check mark and check that off my list for today.
Excellent. And really, it's about the feeling inside. So what celebration is not is, great, I did a good job. Good job, me. Fist bump, right? That's not, it's whatever is going to help you feel that feeling of success inside, which BJ calls shine. And that's actually what wires in the habit. So what do you do with the ABCs? You put them all together in what we call a tiny habit recipe. And that goes like this: after I, that's your anchor. I will, that's your tiny behavior. And then you celebrate in your whatever form you've chosen. So it could be after I hang up my keys, I will put on my running shoes. And then you'd celebrate by saying, good job, me. Right. Or after I put my plate in the sink, I will take a drink of water. Right? And your habit will grow from there. So the tiny habit recipe is just like a recipe where you adjust it to your taste. And that's what these coaches are here to help you with, refining recipes, sharing recipes, and then refining recipes. So if you have questions and you're here, feel free to type them in the Q&A. We did have some questions that came in ahead of time, and so we will go with those. But if you're here and you want to ask a question, please do. I want to start out with something that's common, and I totally know this one because I have family members and they love junk food. I have agency and I could probably not buy it, but really it's not nice to my family to make them just eat with like me. So how do I avoid the temptation with junk food in the house? And this question did not come from me, but I can just relate to it. And I think there are other people who can relate to it as well. Catherine, what do you have to say about that?
So temptations are all around us. And I think a lot of times when people think about dieting, which this is not, we think about restriction or, you're eating from this plan and you can't do anything else. Something that I try to do is really think about planning for something so it doesn't feel like it's forbidden. I have one client who actually made a tiny habit recipe. When I have a scoop of ice cream, I add a pile of berries along to it. So she's adding volume to her treat, but maybe having a smaller bit of it so that she's not excluded from her family's celebration or enjoyment.
And I think the important part here too is that this can be a very additive process, right? It's not necessarily a restrictive process. It's really about matching. So I want to back up a little bit because I realize that all of you coaches have some fantastic success stories, and I want you to share them with the people on this call and on the recording. So let's start with you, Sarah. We'll go Sarah, Marta, Catherine.
Yeah, I love this part of the webinars. So I teach group fitness classes, and a lot of times we'll get folks who come in and say, I want to lose 10 pounds or 20 pounds. And that's what they're putting all of their focus on rather than the actual process of how they're going to get there. And so they'll try to cut cold turkey and say, oh, I got rid of all these things from my diet, similar to what Catherine was referring to with restriction. And what we've actually started doing with folks is saying, let's make one small change, just one. It doesn't have to be 50. It doesn't have to be that I'm cutting out all kinds of stuff. Let's make a change. You decided to come and take a fitness class. Great. Let's tie it to that. And so one person started doing, she did nothing else, nothing with food changed. She just started saying, after I wake up in the morning, I will book a fitness class for that day. Sometimes she came, sometimes she didn't. That's okay. But the habit was booking it. And so after she started booking it, she slowly started coming. And then after about 2 months, she was coming regularly and then started slowly losing weight. And so she didn't change anything else except for that, and was able to get to her goal in a healthier and more positive way rather than, oh, I'm just going to restrict everything and then feel bad at the end of the day.
And I think that's a really common, I'm sure many people listening have been through that restrict, repent, and repeat situation. And that is not a success cycle. I am sure you already know it, but you didn't know any other way. So whatever you've been doing in the past, take a moment for some self-compassion. You were doing the very best you could, right? And now you're here to learn a new way that you can try with some support. So thanks for that, Sarah. Marta, share a success story that you have.
Thanks, Andy. Hi, everyone. I'm going to say that Sarah, absolutely. All of those things that you just mentioned, going cold turkey and focusing on the 10 pounds, the focusing on where I want to be instead of focusing on the process, and celebrating those tiny little gains that I'm making and making myself feel good. I made all of those mistakes. So as you can probably hear by now, I'm talking about myself. I struggled with a hormonal autoimmune disorder that kind of made me fluctuate in weight. And I truly felt like I actually didn't have any agency because it was a health related issue. So it was a struggle, but when I became a Tiny Habits coach, I really took a lot of the advice and the processes to heart, and I decided to give it a chance. And I think for a lot of us that have tried and quote unquote failed, because we do the triple R, that I had to write that down: restrict, repeat, and repent. When we've gone through that cycle so many times, we lose faith that anything will work for us. So we don't even approach weight loss. We just give up on it. But in implementing a lot of the Tiny Habits methodology, I started to see that I can actually be successful. And it wasn't as cut and dry. It wasn't about portion control, and it wasn't about the type of foods that I eat. It was a much bigger picture. It was about stress management, emotional regulation. It was about sleep. It was all of these lifestyle factors. So, but I'm not trying to make that sound overwhelming, because it's not. You start to untangle this big, giant emotional knot, one issue at a time. And because celebration is a big part of Tiny Habits, you feel good about it and you gain this success momentum. It's incredible. Like immediately you start to feel good and you start to feel like you're making progress. And therein lies your ability to continue on with something and make this a lifestyle change. So yeah, that's so anyways, feeling very successful. It's taken some time, but feeling very successful.
And that's really the secret, right? So really what Marta highlighted is some people think of it as all or nothing, right? It's numbers on the scale. I'm there, I'm not there. And when you start to see that there are facets to it, then you can start just like a tangle. You can start at the easiest place. No one would ever, take a tangle of string lights or the old timey earbuds where you set them down and they're straight, and then a second later you pick them up and they're a tangled mess. You don't go for the hardest knot. You don't go for something that is the most challenging. You find the easiest one and you loop it through. And then you start to build some success momentum, because it's not about the size of the successes. It's about the frequency of it. And that's what you'll see. Whereas the, eat, repent, repeat cycle is really, or the restrict, repent, repeat cycle is really not a success cycle. So we're going to put you on a path to success. Catherine, share your success story.
Excellent. Well, I come at this kind of like Marta with a little bit of personal success after literally 40 years of yo-yo dieting and trying the next quick fix. I think someone in the comments said that they were trying to lose 20 pounds for 20 years. I lost 20. I wanted to lose 100 pounds for 20 years. And just kept like, well, this isn't the right time. This isn't the right, always an excuse, waiting for the perfect moment to feel motivated. And finally, in my 40s, when I thought it was too late, I said, what if I started small? What if I let go of giant expectations and giant motivation and just asked myself, what can I do right now? And that's where it started. And in the last 7 years, I've maintained 120-pound weight loss, and also inspired my husband to lose 100 pounds. And we always, with one another, would start with these big, ambitious goals. And it wasn't until we went really small and focused day by day by day and choice by choice that change happened. And in my coaching and being able to let other people know that it is possible, if you've never had success before, you can still make progress in small ways. And one thing that I noticed in the chat was people talking about emotional eating. I just thought I needed a recipe. I needed the right food plan. I needed the right, mix for music to listen to, the right coach. What I realized was that I had huge emotional eating issues. I had huge boundary issues at work, with my family, with volunteering. I was the yes woman. And my habit was to reward myself with food. So when I started working with clients, one thing that I noticed was not, okay, well, how many calories should I have? How much should I walk? 10,000 steps, where am I going to get that? Realized one in particular was salt of the earth, one of the most wonderful women I've ever met, gave to her community, had extra needs children, was just going above and beyond for everyone and leaving nothing for herself. And once we started talking about boundaries, about setting boundaries with other people before saying yes to everything, she sent a message that was like, I said no to my church function. I was the one who planned it. I was the one who brought the food. I was the one who coordinated everything, despite everything else going on in my life. And she said, this year, I said, no, you're going to need to find someone else to manage it. And it all started with when someone asks me, so this is the anchor moment, when someone asks me to help, I say, let me look at my calendar. It's not a promise, it's not a yes, it's not a no, but it gave her an opportunity to pause and really reflect. Does she have the bandwidth to manage extra work? What can she do to look ahead and go, gosh, this is really going to be too much? And setting that boundary gave her the space to focus on her health goals and gave her the space and the ability to not then emotionally eat about all the things she was saying yes to when she meant no. So that is a big success. Knowing that I did it for myself is one thing, but knowing that I helped someone else assert boundaries that they didn't think they deserved was a huge step in her success.
That's a fantastic, well, all the stories are fantastic stories. And it's really an example of how sometimes it's not about the actual behavior that you're doing. It's not about stopping the emotional eating at its moment. It's about doing something earlier on that's leading to that. And sometimes it can be a one-time action. Sometimes it can be a habit like you discussed, where it's after someone asks me to do something, I say, let me check my calendar, right? Something that matches for them where they feel comfortable with it and they know they can get themselves to do it. And then you see the thread of how that basically poofs some of that emotional eating, right? And even having a coach that can identify, hey, this is a boundary issue. Yes, we can work over here in the moment, and we can work over here at what might be one of the sources, right? So you can not only identify some of the sources with expert help, but also the actions that you can take so that you can move forward with healthier options and then feel that success momentum, right? So let's talk about, whenever we do something on eating, there's always about stopping eating, right? Most people are not saying, I want to lose weight. What else can I eat? Right? It's what can I stop eating? And again, there may be some things that you choose not to eat. But I don't think, or show of hands, do you guys generally start with the stopping or start with starting? Starting, right? So we're not going to deny you stopping something when you're ready to it. But what do you do for things like comfort snacking because most of comfort snacking is not due to actual hunger, right? So Sarah, let's talk a little bit about reducing comfort snacking.
Yeah, so I'm a big chocolate at night girly, which from the sound of some of the chat, sounds like a lot of people are. And so the worst thing I could do to myself is say, you're not going to get that, because then the whole night, all I would be thinking about is what I want to be eating. And so rather than actually trying to cut it out, I thought, okay, why is it that I want something chocolate at night? Well, maybe it's because I'm watching my reality trash TV and I want something while I'm doing that. And so I've started finding either different alternatives and letting myself have it, or even with Tiny Habits saying, when I crave a soda, I will get an Olipop. And so then it makes me feel like I'm drinking a soda. Or I'll replace it with dark chocolate instead of regular chocolate, whatever it is. And so I've slowly started using that habit. So it's not like a huge behavior change. It was something really, really small. But then over time, you'll start to crave the other thing less. And that's where some of the behavior change science comes in. And we always start small. So even if I want to grow it eventually and never drink soda at all, I might just start with, I'll have one. And then over time, I'll celebrate just that. And if I have one, great. If I don't have any, that's fine too.
Nice. A lot of the weight loss and healthy eating also lends itself to some one-time behaviors. And so let's take a moment to talk about some one-time behaviors that people can do. Now, a lot of one-time behaviors you can do when you have a higher level of motivation, right? You don't have to, but sometimes, like if you really think, I live alone, I could really clean out all my junk food, but I'm tired right now, I don't want to do it. The next time you kind of keep that as a note. The next time you have a higher level of motivation, you can clean it all out, and then you're setting your environment up for more success. Do you have to do that? Absolutely not. But that's an example of how a one-time behavior can set you up for success in the future. So let's go around, Catherine, Marta, and Sarah, and talk about some one-time behaviors that people can do to set them up for success.
So something that I did to set myself up for success was join a gym. And that was a one-time thing, just joining and not giving myself you're going to work out every single day for the rest of your life. But one-time behaviors are buying the air fryer, buying the tennis shoes, setting out a basket that you know you're going to put your workout clothes in, buying a water bottle that you can track your water consumption through the day. Those are one-time purchases that give extended use over time.
Nice. Marta.
Yeah, I'm such a big fan of one-time behaviors, especially when you're motivated to do it, especially specifically changing my environment. Like, you can't see, but I'll let you see. I have a TRX hanging from my door, and I've got some weights behind me. And that's not necessarily, well, no, I'm gonna admit it, I'm lazy. I don't necessarily love going to the gym. And I recently hit my head again. I had a brain injury 4 years ago, and I hit my head putting my shoes on. So my doctor, my neurologist was like, okay, stop the gym for the next 4 months. You're just not going to the gym. And I thought, oh, I'm going to feel so bad not going to the gym. So what I did was I rode the motivation wave, and I printed off my workout routine, and I just cut it into pieces. And I would do my TRX in the morning, 7 pull-ups, which is not so hard to do on a TRX. Then later I would pepper in all of my other sets that I would do at the gym in a one-time shot, but I would just spread them out through the day. So kind of like a harmonica, instead of doing it, instead of keeping it tight, I just kind of spread it out through the day. But that required for me to change my environment. That required for me to get my dumbbells, put them out where I see them, to set up my TRX, to print off that workout routine, and to figure out where I'm going to put what. And after that, it's just easy peasy, like no energy, no motivation required. It's just like a domino, like a snake of dominoes. You tip and they roll on their own.
Nice. Sarah.
Yeah, I would say organize my fridge and get the clear plastic containers to store anything and everything in. And so now that I've actually done it, I want it to look like it's out of the Home Edit Netflix show. And so I'll buy different color produce to make it look like that. And then if it's in the fridge, you're naturally going to start eating it. So that's definitely my favorite one.
Exactly. So you've got if you're listening now or on the recording, you've got a lot of one-time behaviors you can choose when you have some motivation, right? So we're all about matching. We're going to match you to what you want to do, what you think you can get yourself to do, and what you think you're going to have impact. It's going to have impact for you. We're going to match your action to your motivation level. And we're going to design your habits, your tiny habit recipes, for your lowest motivation level, so that you are going to be consistent and it will be automatic. And then your one-time behaviors you can pepper in to set yourself up for success when you have a higher level of motivation. And that way you'll end up building some success momentum. So there's a couple questions about like the difficulty in doing anything around weight loss or changing your eating. And I just want to address that globally, that I think by now with the success stories and with these one-time actions, that you can see, if you're listening, that this is not about making it hard. It's actually about finding the ways to make it easy with the tiny habits recipes and with some one-time behaviors. We have a question about this, and I feel like, we hear this a lot. I've been so good this week, but I gained anyway, or I've been so good for so long. What do you do about that, Catherine?
So that happens quite often. I gained weight 20 times while losing 100 pounds. And that first time you think you've been good and you think it should pay off and it doesn't, it can be really deflating. But those changes happen, especially with hormones, water retention, salt. There's so many different reasons, and we're not here to get to a certain number. We're here to live a kind of lifestyle. Like BJ says in his book, we're creating an identity of someone who is healthy, someone who has healthy practices, and those behaviors and habits support that lifestyle. So whatever your number is on the scale, what is your North Star? What direction are you heading in? And are you content with the choices that you're making every day that are leading you in that direction? Sometimes, like, you blow a red light and the police officer doesn't catch you and you get away with it. And other times you didn't do anything and you get pulled over and you get the ticket. So the scales literally and figuratively balance out, but there are so many non-scale victories that we can focus on as well. Sometimes people call them NSVs, of your clothes fitting better. You can actually get up off the floor without your knees hurting. You're sitting up straighter because you're feeling more confident. There are so many things, and I actually kept a list of 100 different ways my life changed that had nothing to do with the scale. And the more we can make note of the kind of person we're becoming, the less the number on the scale actually matters day by day, week by week.
Nice. Exactly. I like the NSB's non-scale, NSB non-scale victories. Sarah, people are saying, somebody asked, like, I'm really tired when I get home from work and how I'm supposed to exercise. And I'm just going to say, embedded in that question is, I'm not getting up early to exercise. So let's just answer it that way, because many people are getting up early enough as it is. They know they can't get themselves to do that. So what do they do when they come home and they're tired?
Yeah, that can be really difficult, especially if you've been staring at a screen all day and you just want to sit and not do anything. It can be really hard. And so what you have to do is find something one that motivates you. And then two, how do you start to incorporate exercise throughout your day? So Marta started talking about that earlier, right? So how do you say, well, every time that I end a meeting, I will stand up, or every time a meeting is over, I will walk around my office floor. Gradually, you'll start walking more and more. You might even get more energy, but doing just a little bit of movement and incorporating that throughout your day is an easy, tiny habit to do. You could also tie it to something fun that you already do. So maybe there's something that you look forward to doing. Or when I go to check the mail, I will walk an extra 5 steps past the mailbox and then come back. So slowly starting to incorporate that in. It doesn't mean that you have to say, all right, now I'm a 4 a.m. workout person and I'm going to force myself to work out at 4 a.m. That doesn't work for everyone. Some people love it, and the people who do it consistently do it because they love it. Other people who don't like getting up at 4 a.m. can incorporate it other times. Maybe they work out at lunch, or maybe they go for a walk after work, or they have a dog and they're taking their dog for a walk. So slowly incorporating it other places and other ways, rather than forcing yourself to do something just because you saw success in someone else's ability to do that.
And again, it really comes down to matching, right? So we're not matching you with something you don't want to do that you can't get yourself to do, right? You're going to match yourself, or with the aid of a coach, they're going to help match you with something that you actually want to do, because that gets you over the motivation level, right? Then later you might be able to do other things that you didn't think you can do due to the success momentum. What about, Marta, what about eating when you're overtired, or stopping? I think it kind of goes hand in hand with maybe stopping eating when you're in the middle of eating and you're already full.
I think I would approach that. I would back up, like we were saying, that sometimes the behavior, sometimes we need to just back up a little bit and attack it before it actually happens. So I used to be the person that would like eat more with her eyes, and then I would feel, I would load up all of these things onto my plate, and it was this gigantic plate, and I was so emotionally dysregulated that I would sit there and I'd feel like I needed to finish that plate, that entire thing. And also probably adding to that was my childhood, my mom always telling me to finish my plate and never leave any, even if I'm feeling full. But I would get ahead of that, and I would maybe very consciously think about putting a certain amount in a plate that's maybe half of what I usually do. And 5 minutes after I'm finished, if I'm still feeling hungry, I'll get a little bit more. But it would be very mindful about how much I actually put on my plate.
And mindfulness can be a habit. There's so many habits that you can pick from with you can just try them out and see how they work, or with the help of a coach that will get you a little more agency and get you onto the success momentum track. So, even a mindfulness habit of, after I put food on my plate, or after I pick up the serving spoon, I will only put one serving on my plate. Right? Or after I finish the last bite of food, I will ask myself if I'm really hungry for more, or if I want some comfort. Right? So you can,
If I may.
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just want to add, because I think when it comes to food, there's so many sensitivities, and it's so painful because we want to be a certain identity. And when it's just, we're so highly motivated, but there's something, it's not clicking, it's not working for us, it's painful, it's just out of reach. It's like that mythological Sisyphus. So it's like a Sisyphean thing. It's just, or no, sorry, it's Tantalus.
Tantalus,
It's just,
yeah.
Tantalus, yes. It's just out of reach. And I talk about asking mindfully, how much do I think I'm going to eat? A few years ago, I would have never been able to hack that habit. That's not a habit I would have been successful with, because it was too high level. I would have needed to see that, oh, I've had success in changing already. I've had some success. I can do this. So that might be out of reach for you right now, and don't feel discouraged. It's about finding the right entry point for you. That's all it is.
Every habit is about finding. I'm so glad you highlighted that. You want to take the habits that you think you can get yourself to do, and that you think are going to have impact. Right? Don't pick things that sound good that are going to be hard for you. Just start at the easiest place. And that is a higher level to start at, because it requires a lot of knowing what's going inside. It may even make you feel anxious to put less food on your plate. And if you're going there, don't choose that habit. Right? This really goes for all habits, whether you're talking about eating or fitness or productivity. However, in doing many of these panels and in talking with many of these coaches, anything around food and eating, there's an extra level of emotional charge on it, and just pick things that don't have the charge for you so that you can build a success momentum. So let's talk about some of your favorite tiny habit recipes. And we'll show you the slides. So Sarah, pick a recipe and give a little bit more detail around it.
Yeah, so I'll do number 3, because I know we've kind of talked about the other ones slightly a little bit. So after I arrive at work, I will park in the furthest spot. So a lot of times I have a friend who's like, I refuse to park anywhere other than the closest spot. And I was like, well, how do you slowly start incorporating more walking into your life without trying that hard? Well, you always have to walk from the parking lot into your office. So if you purposefully place yourself further away, then you'll have to therefore walk further there and back. You'll also probably park far away from everyone else and not get a single ding on your car. So there's other perks that come with that as well. So my tiny habit was, after I arrive at work, I will park in the furthest spot in the parking lot, and then I celebrate. Typically that's while I'm walking to the office. I'm like, okay, great. That was a good job. You parked further away. Now look at how many more steps you get during the day.
Fantastic. And you could substitute that for, after I go into the grocery store parking lot, I will park at the furthest thing. It can grow in a couple of different ways too. So soon you'll be getting in more steps without even really trying. Catherine.
Hey there. So going back to sort of what Marta was saying on the last one, after I start preparing a meal, I will ask, what veggie can I add to this? How can I pump up the volume? People think about sad little, and this is what I used to do. You can have 4 cherry tomatoes. I was on a diet once where the guy had me having like 7 almonds for breakfast, and it felt so terrible. It felt like a punishment. But what can you add to your life? After I fill my plate, what can I add to it to give it more color, more vibrance, especially at this time of the year? If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, all the veggie stands and the farmers markets and all the fresh fruit and vegetables, what can you add? How can you feel abundant right now? So that's what I like to do.
Awesome. All right, Marta.
Okay, I am gonna go for 3, like Sarah. After I think in my head, I want my body to be skinnier, I will remind myself that I don't need to adhere to outdated beauty standards. And mind you, I don't say that full thing to myself. I relate to it. There's an emotion now that I'm like, I'm not gonna do that to myself. And I'm a big fan of working in tandem, having some habits that are really tangible and measurable. And then there are some that change our mindset, the way we relate to things, the way we chat to ourselves, our inner voice. And I love this one because it's for me, it's kind of taking like the middle path. I'm doing everything I can in terms of my physiological habits, but I'm also adjusting my mindset and lowering my expectations in a very healthy way. And in turn, I'm feeling better about myself. I'm happier. And when I'm happier, my cortisol is lower. And when my cortisol is lower, my blood sugar doesn't rise as much. And when my blood sugar doesn't rise as much, I get to lose more weight. So guess what? It's like this amazing, beautiful concentric circle. It just because I'm not adhering to these outdated, arbitrary beauty standards, it doesn't mean I'm giving up on myself by any stretch of the imagination. It just means that I'm also going to feel happy while I'm doing it. So that's fine.
And we might as well feel happy while we're doing that. If we're moving in any direction, we have a choice to feel happy or to feel uncomfortable, distressed over it. And if part of this collection of tiny habit recipes, you feel you can get yourself to change your mindset in a way that helps you be happier, then your process will be smoother and you can build some success momentum. There's a lot of entry points into any aspiration or goal that you have, but with eating and weight loss, it is especially important that you find the easiest entry in and you find the ways to make yourself feel good along the way, because you will more consistently you will be more consistent in your actions, you will feel more successful, and you will start to identify as the person who can maintain this. And you can see these experts here have a lot of success with themselves and their clients working with sustainable change and the Tiny Habits method. So I want to talk, before we talk about all the different ways you can celebrate, and these coaches share some of their celebrations so you know how to wire in your habits, I want to share where you can find these coaches, and they're in the chat, and work with them, and other resources that are available to you, many of them free. They're all on the tinyhabitsacademy.com website. Here's what it looks like. And you can join the 5-day program. Now, if you have not joined the 5-day program in a while, I encourage you to sign up on the Tiny Habits Academy website, implement some of these habits that you've heard today. You get a coach behind the scenes to help you troubleshoot along the way and to cheer on your successes. And they're real people just like these coaches. So I encourage you to implement some of your tiny habit recipes that you learned today through the 5-day program. Also on the Tiny Habits Academy website, the coach directory. So these coaches, the coaches for these, their information's in the chat. You can also find them here. You can find coaches by their expertise or by their expertise or by their names. You can see all the other panel discussions that we have had on the panels page and the upcoming ones. Scrolling down. And there's ones on self-compassion that might be helpful. There's a mindful eating one. There's a lot of other supportive panels for you too that will dovetail with this one. We have some of our coaches have actual paid courses so that you can purchase these courses at a variety of price levels. And then if you're seeing the benefit and you're in the helping profession and you want to join our community, Please get certified so you can help your clients have results like these. You can join our certification program. All the information is on this page. We have upcoming cohorts. And I hope to see you in one soon. And also we have a fantastic community, right? It's not just another check on your CV or your resume. It's actually ongoing learning and ongoing support. And just you get to work with coaches like these. Just really pretty amazing. So finally, let's talk about celebration. There are 6 categories of celebration. There are many, many ways to celebrate. And we actually have a list of 102 celebrations that we can send you if you're interested in. So number 1 is physical movements. That's like your high fives, your fist pumps. Number 2 is your verbal statements like, hey, I did a good job, or I'm doing really well. You can sing a song, We Are the Champions, or the theme from Rocky. You can do sound effects like, woohoo. You can also do visualization. So I could see myself receiving an award for doing such a good job. And then the celebration for non-celebrators is what we call the purpose-focused celebration. Now you can still be a celebrator and use this. I'm an avid celebrator and I love this one. And it's a statement like this: I'm the type of person who, or I'm becoming the type of person who really sticks to their game plan. I'm becoming the type of person who loses weight in a healthy way. I'm becoming the type of person who can drink water consistently, right? Whatever it is for you. I'm becoming the type of mom that can keep up with their kids. So you want to say something authentic to yourself, and you could say that silently, or you could say it out loud to yourself. So coaches, I would love for you to share some of your favorite celebrations so that people can see how you celebrate. And I know a few of you have celebrations for non-celebrators too.
All right, so
Yes.
I'll go first. So I know there are a lot of people who might be nervous about actual physical celebration. So I do my celebration in one of 2 ways. I imagine Betty White. I think everyone knows who she is, beloved woman. There is a GIF video of her dabbing. So it's Betty White dabbing. And if I am in a place where I cannot celebrate outwardly, I think of Betty, having my back. And if I am by myself, I will do it myself because I want to embarrass my 17-year-old to no ends. So she's horrified by it. And it makes me feel celebratory. So
That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. Marta and then Sarah.
That's awesome. I love that. I like listening in on people's celebrations so then I can try them on for size myself. I have sort of flowing celebrations. They run the gamut from a purpose-based celebration, like Andy mentioned. I think all throughout the physical, the visualizations, but I guess some of my favorites that have stuck with me, and it really depends on the context where I am. Like if I'm in a restaurant and I've gone to the bathroom, I'm not going to go yippee or I did that. I have sort of a gratitude habit after I flush the toilet. I'm going to say one thing I'm grateful for. And if I'm in a restroom that's public, I'm certainly not going to do what I just did. I might just smile to myself and go like, good job. But yeah, the other 2 are good for me. I mean, I like them. The like just shot that out of the park and like, yeah.
Excellent. Sarah, tell us what you like. And I know you have some also celebrations for non-celebrators.
Yeah, so I'm not huge on just patting myself on the back, but I'll say something nice to myself, and that can change based on what you're doing. So your celebration for drinking more water could be different than going for a walk. And so I'll say something like good job, or check that off the list for today. So something just positive for myself, and I'll kind of rotate a few different statements.
And it's all about matching yourself in the moment. So I put a list of 102 celebrations in there that you guys can try some of these and then see what you like. There's really no failure in this. It's really all feedback. And part of the process is revision. So if one celebration works great, keep going with it. If it didn't work so much for you, try something new. That's the beauty of this process. is that you can always iterate. There's always room for revision. I want to thank this coaches here for really giving their all, for sharing on a very big topic, some very actionable insights for you and some things you can try right away. I want to thank you all on the recording or live today. We really appreciate you. We know that you have a lot that you can do with your time, and we really hope to deliver great value. We hope to see you in the 5-day program, and we hope that you reach out to these coaches. So cheers, everyone.